Hey there nation, welcome to the show. We help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander CheapSkate, and now it's time for another edition of Tales from the Underhive. This is battle report number 34. This is a kind of modified Caravan Scenario. While my buddies and I were kind of surfing the net, we actually found some old tournament rules for some interesting scenarios. That's why we started doing the pit fight scenarios, because we found that those set of scenarios online. And so this one looked kind of interesting as well. This is a Caravan Scenario that features Sister Serial of Precinct 13 with her Adepties, Arbites, Enforcers versus yours truly of the Jury of House Cawdor. So this one's been coming and going for a while now. Precinct 13 is kind of a weakened state. Their alpha team, which is their most powerful team that they have in the Precinct house, is unable to activate it for any mission. So because of that, Bravo team is going to have to run this one solo. But interesting enough, Precinct 13, especially Bravo team, captured several members of rival gangs in the previous scenarios that we had leading up to this one. So because of that, those captured individuals will now actually end up helping the Adepties, Arbites, and Forces to survive. The idea is if they help them move some really critical supplies that they're moving across the wasteland, in this case we're saying that it's a stash of evidence from point A to point B to the Underhive. If those gang members help out the Adepties, Arbites, and Forces to protect it against the jury, then they will be pardoned for their crimes and be allowed to return back to their respective gangs if they survive. So this is kind of like an interesting little gang fight. It's between the elements of the Killjoys as well as the Iron Sights helping out members of the Precinct 13 versus my gang. So without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we'll put on some background music real quick, play the show the rosters for each of the gangs, and then we'll get this battle report on the roll. Alright folks, now it's time for the scenario rules. As we said before, this is a modified caravan roll. What's going to happen is that the Bravo team of Precinct 13 is going to have to try to escort their package of very critical criminal evidence across the Underhive. Now my gang, the jury, and this one is the attackers. We heard about this really valuable creative information. Our job is to try to take it and take it out as quickly as possible, kill the defenders, and pretty much go across. As you can see, we're fighting on a 4x4 table. We've got lots of buildings, a lot of ruins kind of taking place throughout this part of the Underhive. We got that neat little gantry walkway that's located in the left-hand side of the board, and so the idea is that if we can destroy the caravan or go up to the caravan, my guys take off d6 loot counters and you roll up on a table to see exactly what you end up finding. You find things like weapons, equipment, creds, which are probably like the most important ones, as well as maps. So if you actually roll up on a map of one of the loot, you get yourself a brand new territory that you get to take for yourself and for your gang, so that's actually kind of neat as well. And so that's pretty much how the scenario rule works. Typical bottle rules apply for the attacker, the defender. It's pretty much life or death situation for those guys, so because of that, it's up to them whether they want to run away or not. And for everybody else, it's pretty much standard rules apply for bottling rules for the attackers. I pretty much outnumber this gang, so it's kind of like in my favor, but you never know when it comes to battles in the Underhive. So with that being said, let's go to deployment areas real quick. Alright, so here's an overhead shot of deployment. As you can see, Sister Serial and the members of Precinct 13, as well as the Iron Sights and Killjoys, are part on the near side of the board, and my gang, the Jury, is a part on the far side of the table as well. What they're going to have to do is they have to cut across this entire table and try to fight their way through. So it's kind of like a neat little Judge Dredd type situation where you have a handful of judges against an entire army of gang members trying to take them out. So with deployment overhead taking place, let's go and talk about the individual areas where all the gangs are located at. Alright, here's a close-up for Precinct 13. As you can see, you got the 5 members of the Bravo squad kind of taking point on the left-hand side. You got a couple of judges on the left-hand side, and you got Judge Vasquez. That guy's over with the heavy flavor taking point. In the back left corner, I forgot which judge that is. I believe it's the bolt gun carrying judge. He's located at the top of that gantry, so that way he can run across and provide some overhead watch from above. Right behind them, of course, right next to the right-hand side, you got the members of the Killjoys. That's Trixie and I believe, not Raven. Yeah, Trixie and Raven, I believe. And then right between them, you got Red Cap Killer. That's the scummer who got captured in the last scenario as well. Right behind them, you got the huge little hover crate. We're gonna pretend that's what that is. That's holding all the supplies on it. And behind it, of course, you have Kundalini of the Iron Sights also protecting it as well. Like I said, we're saying for this one because these guys were also on their way back to the Precinct House, and once they realized they're being ambushed, they gave these gangers an option. Either they can go to jail directly, or they could probably fight and survive and be pardoned. So that makes it a point for them. And here's the deployment for the Jury. On the left-hand side, right outside the West Super Red, as you can see, I got my little gang of Jews right there in the front. I got Mad Teddy as well as Tango and Reese taking point there. I also got not Dark Side. I also got Jockey as well as VR running with them because those guys are experienced gangers. And right behind them, of course, I got Scorpion as well as what's his name, Johnny. That's the guy who's armed with a plasma gun as well. These guys are kind of like my assault element. My plan is to have these guys dart forward and try to take on Precinct 13 and draw most of their fire, and also try to put them in a bad way by getting them in close combat. Over here on the right hand side, I have the rest of my gang located there as well. I got Riptor as well as Sorter. He's located in that unit as well. I also got Scorpion as well as Zero, I believe. And I also got Mondo, DJ, as well as Stubber. They're kind of like my supporting element. My plan is to have them kind of flank around the right hand side and also try to engage the Precinct 13 in a crossfire. And also hiding on the back here, we have my infiltrators, of course. We got Sorter, who's my heavy arm with a heavy last cannon. So my plan is to have him, kind of perch up on a spot somewhere, so that way he can land some sniper shots at long range fire with a very, very dangerous weapon. Next to him, of course, Dark Side is armed with his bolt gun, as well as Red Harvest, as well as Reptile. So those guys are kind of deployed there, so that way they can infiltrate the board and attack as necessary. I forgot to mention, I also had Tetsuo use his quick-witted ability, had a Vanguard up 12 inches ahead of time into the ruins in the middle of the building, so that way he can also get in a pretty good flanking position as well. Okay, that takes the top of turn number 1 for Precinct 13. As you can see, the forces basically waste no time charging up as quickly as they possibly can. They run up their guys to take up cover positions there on the left-hand side, next to that MCI chemical tower there on the left-hand side. At the same time, she also runs up one of her judges onto the gantry to provide overhead cover, so that way they can do some long-range shots and provide overwatch. At the same time, she takes the 2 members of the Killjoys, have them run up to the MCI tank towers over there on the right-hand side, so that way they can get in cover positions and put down some long-range sniper fire as well. The skiff that contains all the goods, that thing moves randomly, so she has no real control of that. It goes up a couple inches, and she keeps Kundalini there to kind of protect it as well, so that way someone's watching the caravan at all times. That pretty much makes the move phase for Precinct 13 on the top of turn number 1. And also, here's a close-up of the Killjoys occupying those MCI chemical work towers. And the reason why Sister Serial sent those gangers on the right-hand side is because she knows that I also have infiltrators, as well as Tetsuo trying to head to this area as well to catch the gang, my rivals, into a crossfire. So she's kind of setting up defenses in the right-hand flank to kind of intercept me. And because her gang ran, there's no shooting phase and there's no combat phase or recovery phase. We go directly to the bottom of turn number 1 for the Jury, and this photo is taken directly after the move phase. And as you can see in this photo, I pretty much send up my entire gang and start mobbing towards them. I have 18 members in this gang, so being outnumbered is not much of a problem for me. In fact, I'm starting to feel that kind of like, maybe I was feeling a little cocky. I was kind of fooling myself. I have the most powerful gang in our campaign right now, so I'm like, you know what? Enough of this fire maneuver nonsense. I'm just going to send my guys as quickly as possibly can, so that way they cause so much damage as they possibly could. So you can see on the left hand side, I got my squad of Jews and my gangers kind of run up along that wall of the chemical tank, so that way they can start charging in hopefully my next turn and start taking out members of Precinct 13. At the same time, I also just move up the normal 4 inches the rest of my supporting elements there on the right hand side, so that way they can start shooting as well without having to worry about taking penalties. Unfortunately for me, I didn't have a really successful shooting phase. All my gangers that could shoot opened up on the cargo skiff. My hope is to destroy that cargo skiff, because on these alternative rules, what ends up happening is that if you blow up that cargo skiff, you get 6d6 loot crates scattering on the battlefield. And if I can kill the members of Precinct 13, all of those loot crates will become mine. So that's pretty much what the kind of goal I'm going for. Unfortunately, I only managed to put 1 wound on it, so that was kind of sad. So with nothing else going on, we go directly to the top of turn number 2 for Precinct 13. This feature is taking out the move phase, and as you can see, Sister Serial starts moving up a lot of her judges into cover to kind of protect them from the incoming fire that my jury is kind of throwing their way. She also uses the red cap killer from the Killjoys to act as a point man, so she kind of sends them up forward to kind of absorb bullet shots to keep the rest of her judges at bay. At the same time, she also moves up the 2 members of the Killjoys to the top of that MCI Chemical Works tower, so that way they can start taking some pot shots, and also moves up her judge down the gantry so that way it can provide some more overhead cover. And also the skiff also starts moving towards cover as well. If I can't destroy that skiff before it gets into cover, it could be kind of a difficult fight for me, because then I'll have to go into close combat and try to steal loot crates one by one at a time if I can't stop them dead in their tracks. So that's movement phase for turn number 2. Here's a close of the 2 members of the Killjoys taking up their position there along the tanks, so that way they can start shooting back and putting down some suppressive fire to cover the caravan as they try to make their way across the table. And here's a close-up of the caravan trying to make their way to cover, so that way they don't have to worry about being shot at anymore by the members of my gang. During the shooting phase, I forgot which character it was that managed to line a shot off on the VR, but the series of shots they were able to shoot at 2 of my gang members managed to hit VR, also managed to take off the 2 wounds off that poor guy, so now he's down right now. As you can see, he's got a little 3 right next to him because he's bleeding out right now. Because none of the guys are engaged in close combat and there is no sense for them to recover because none of their guys are wounded, we go directly to the bottom of turn number 2 for the jury. Okay, so that takes us to the bottom of turn number 2 after the movement phase for the jury, and the first thing I do is I deploy a couple of my infiltrators. As you can see in this close-up, I deploy both Darkside as well as Red Harvest. I have them deploy on the top of that MCI Chemical Works tower, so that way they can start shooting at the members of the Killjoys. Ah, that's what it is. Trixie, that's the metal that's there on the left-hand side. No, I'm sorry, yeah, that's Trixie. As you can see there, she's the one who actually took a misfire on that part, so because of that, she was the one that made the shot and also got a field ammo roll on that part. I'm sorry, I apologize about that. So as you can see, I got 2 members of my gangs getting ready to shoot at these 2 Killjoys and hopefully get them off my case. And I also put Sora on the top of this watchtower, so that way he's on the top of the metro station, so that way he can start landing some long-range shot with that last cannon. Hopefully I can blow up that skiff before it gets behind cover, because that last cannon packs a mean punch and I'm hoping to cause some damage. And finally, for my last infiltrator, I move up Reptile. He's right next to Tetsu as well, so those 2 guys can kind of get on the far right-hand flank of Precinct 13 and hopefully cause some damage on the right-hand side as well. So with infiltrators move, I start moving the rest of my gang for the rest of the move phase. Alright, so as you can see in this picture, I get a little restless. I'm starting to get upset that my gang, even though I'm numbering 18 guys, I'm not getting any successful shots off, so I kind of do something stupid here. As you can see in this photo, I take a lot of my juves and I put them on top of the wall of the MCI Chemical Works, that way they can see the jury, the members of Precinct 13, so that way they can start shooting at them. I also forgot that when I put those guys on the top of the wall, they also expose themselves to fire. I don't know what I was thinking at the time, but you know, I was like, YOLO, let's do this. So I put a couple of my juves on the top of the wall. I also move my assault elements as quick as I can around that corner, so that way they have a clear line of line of sight onto those members of the Precinct 13 as well. Once again, exposing them down to return fire. I don't know why I did that. For my supporting elements, I pretty much kept in the back there. I send up Mondo and DJ to get a little closer, so that way they can throw some frag grenades. At the same time, I also charge in Darkside and Red Harvest across that little tank bridge there. Pipe bridge, so that way I engage the 2 Killjoys on the top of the MCI Chemical Work towers. And so that pretty much makes up the move phase for this one. Here's a close-up of Darkside as well as Red Harvest charging into the 2 members of Killjoys, so those guys will be fighting it out here in the close combat phase. And here's a close-up of both Mad Teddy, Tango, as well as Jockey, taking up positions up there on the top of the wall to start shooting down at Precinct 13. And like a moron, I opened them up to return fire. You can see that Johnny's also heading to the left-hand side there towards the wall as well, because, you know, good ideas just seem like the best plan to use at this point. And I also move up, I believe that's Reese. I move him up as well, so that way he can get a lean line of shot towards the members of Precinct 13 as well. So that makes the move phase on this one. As you can see in this photo, I kept back I also kept back Zero as well as Lemonhead, as well as Riptor. I kind of keep them right located right behind that rubble pile, because they have some pretty decent ballistic skills, so not worry about them missing too much. And I also move up Mondo and DJ a little bit, so that way they can get a better chance of shooting at the caravan. Meanwhile, on the right-hand side of the table, I move up and run Tetsuo as well as Reptile to the corner of that office building there on the right-hand side, so that way they can start assaulting from the right and hitting the right-hand flank of the Caravan with their auto rifles. And so that's the move for those guys. Luckily for me, moving all my guys out into the open to do some shooting actually kind of worked out for the best for me. As you can see, I land a couple of shots off onto, what's his name, like the scummer, Redcap Killer. I managed to put like a couple of flesh wounds on him and also managed to put him down as well, so he's just laying there bleeding. At the same time, I also take out one of the judges as well as causing him to have a go out of action, so that guy will also have to roll off on the serious injury table, which is also pretty cool as well. And in fact, if I remember correctly, I think I rolled like 6s on that part, so I gave him 6 wounds, so that guy's going to take some serious injuries from the last can on that part. So with shooting phase over, we go directly to the combat phase, and as you can see, the score fighting between Darkseid as well as that member of the Killjoys. Darkseid gets boxcars on that part, so I actually kind of put down the hurting on that part, so that was kind of neat. And I think Darkseid managed to put 3 wounds on her, so as you can see, I also followed 2 inches to deal with the next member of the Killjoys, Trixie. However, Trixie and Red Harvest, they fought it out. Red Harvest just absolutely flipped his rolls. He ended up with a combat score of 2, and Trixie ended up with a combat score of 11, giving her like a 9-hit advantage on top of Red Harvest as well. So, needless to say, my Ratskid Scout just got owned. And she turns to face Darkseid, so those two will have to engage each other in the next combat phase as well. So that'd be actually kind of cool to see exactly what happens on that part. But so far, things are not looking. I already lost my Ratskin Scout, so that part was kind of sad. I'll have to roll up on the series inter table for that guy. So that being said, we go directly to the top of turn number 3 for Precinct 13. Alright, so this is the top of turn number 3 after move phase for Precinct 13, and as you can see, Sister Serial moved up her members of her squad up just a little bit just to get out of the rate of fire from the assault team as well as from the support team as well that I'm having to shoot at them with. They move up a couple inches, so that puts them in a good primary spot to shoot at the Juves that I have climb on the top of the MCI Chemical Works tower. I'm not sure why I did that, but they're on that wall, so they're kind of located there as well. She also moves her bolt gun carrying judge on the left hand side, moves him up a couple inches as well, so that way you can get a clean line of shot, add to the rest of the gang. But other than that, though, not much moves really happening for her gang. She does move her skiff behind that wall, that little corner section of wall, so now we'll not be able to shoot at him with Sorter's last cannon, so that part was kind of sad. However, during the shooting phase, that's when Precinct 13 starts bringing the pain. One of the judges opens up and manages to hit as well as wound Tango. So that poor guy is now on the ground. I rolled up for the injury to see exactly what happened to that guy. I got a 6, so he will go out of action. He'll need to roll up on the serious injury tables after this scenario is done. At the same time, the Jews who are looking at the top of the wall. As you can see, those guys just got shot off the wall like it was nobody's business. I believe that's Mete on the left-hand side. Same thing with Reese. Those guys are now down right now and they're bleeding, so they're both kind of laying there on the top of that chemical tower because that's all they can really do. At the same time, I believe Jockey got shot off the wall, so he got, not only did he get shot, he flew off that wall. Also had to take a strength 3 hit for the fall as well. He rolled a 6 up on his injury, so because of that, he will go out of action. He too will need to roll on the serious injury table as well. I'm not sure what I was thinking putting my guys at the top of the wall like that, but yeah, that was a really bad mistake. And in the combat phase, oh my god, the combat phase was totally horrible for me. I ended up with a combat score of 8, while Sister Sarah rolled like a 10 for Trixie as well. That gives her a 2-hit advantage. That girl is packing a plasma pistol as well as a chainsword against Darkseid, so that's like just the bad mixture of all kinds of horribleness. Needless to say, she had enough wounds to put that guy out of action as well, so Darkseid is now out of action. He will also need to roll up on the serious injury table as well. And there's Trixie looking like a boss, turning around to take aim with her last gun to start sniping at the members of my gang who are now all out in the open, which is, you know, just a genius idea on my part. During the recovery phase, Redcap Killer does manage to get back on his feet again, so now he's got 2 flesh wounds on top of him, so it's -2 to his blitzing skill as well as to his weapon skill. Not exactly how effective he'll be in the fight, but at least Sister Stereo has more bodies to bring to the fight, so that makes up the turn for Precinct 13. Okay, so that takes the top of turn number 3 for the jury, and because I made bad choices at the beginning of this scenario, nothing says we should just keep on going for it and just fully commit. I start moving my gang forward as well. So as you can see there, like my entire assault group is now down. Either they're down or they're out of action. So because of that, I start moving my support elements. I move up Mondo and DJ. I also move up Scorpion as well. I also move up Riptor, Zero, as well as Lemonhead to get in fighting positions, and I also move up Dark's Reptile as well as Tetsuo there on the right hand side because I'm trying to shoot at this gang and hopefully get them a crossfire, or if not shoot them that way, just assault and steal as much stuff as I possibly can off of that little hover crate. Here's a close-up of the support element that was supposed to do the shooting in my army, but now they have to assault now because I made a bunch of bad tactical decisions at the very beginning of the scenario. So you can see all of them are kind of coming up forward, moving up a couple inches, so that way they can shoot long range with their weapons. And also here's a nice little backlit shot of Sorter moving a little bit to the right hand side, so that way he can get a better angle with his last cannon, hopefully cause some pain in the shooting phase. And here's a close-up of Tetsuo as well as Reptile moving down to the right-hand side flank of the Precinct 13 and hopefully try to get that gang in a crossfire. So that pretty much makes the move for this one. During the shooting phase, I managed to cause a couple of wounds, so the gamble did kind of work off that way. Most of my shots lined up on Red Cap Killer, so that was kind of nice. Managed to put, I believe, another wound on him. So that because of that, when he rolled off to see exactly what happened to that guy, his star rolled a 6. So because of that, Red Cap Killer will need to take a roll on the injury table to see exactly what happens to him. At the same time, I also managed to put down one of the judges as well. I wasn't able to put him out of action, but he is now down, now bleeding right now, so one less judge to worry about as far as I'm concerned. So that part was kind of nice as well. At the same time, Scorpion, who's my ganger who's armed with a grenade launcher, he opens up the frag grenade on the last two judges that are standing, hoping to take those guys out in the field of fire. But unfortunately, Sister Serial made her armor save. These guys are all wearing Carapace armor, so they get a 4 armor save. Frag grenades only have a strength of 3, so there is no armor reduction to that save. So those guys shrugged it off without another word in their mind. At the same time, I forgot if it was Tetsuo or Reptile. We managed to shoot Trixie. Not only did we manage to hit and wound her as well, but we also made her ready to take an initiative test. She failed that initiative test and also fell off the tower as well, causing another strength, I believe, 5 hit. However, when we rolled up for injury, Sister Sarah rolled a 4, so because of that, that ganger member is now laying on the ground, just kind of bleeding out. That is kind of good, though, because I could charge in Tetsuo or Reptile into her during my movement phase. In the close combat phase, that character will automatically go out of action, so, you know, I'll take what I can get. At the same time, I take Sorter, who's my heavy armor, the heavy last cannon. I can't shoot the little container thing, the little cargo skiff that's looking in the back because of the angle at it. However, I do take a shot at Judge Vasquez, who's the guy who's armed with the flamer. I managed to put 6 wounds onto that guy. So not 6 wounds. I also managed to wound that guy, drop him. I also put that guy out of action as well. Luckily for Sister Serial, when she rolled up on his injury, she didn't roll doubles. So because of that, you have to worry about him getting killed by high impact. So because of that, he goes out of action as well. Luckily for Sister Serial, though, that judge is right behind him. I believe that's Judge Benoit, who's armed with a combat shotgun. He passes his panic test and basically stands his ground. So that makes the shooting phase for Sorter. Because there's no close combat, we go to the recovery phase. As you can see in this photo, Mad Teddy recovers. He's got a flesh wound on him now, so now he's packing -1 to his weapon skill as well as to his ballistic skill. And the rest of my gang members who didn't get back up on their feet, they're still laying on the ground, bleeding out and moving 2 inches. So that pretty much makes up turn number 3 for the jury. So that takes the top of turn number 4 for Precinct 13. As you can see, Sister Serial doesn't have very many members of her patrol team still left over. So all she really does is just kind of move these guys out in such a way that they can cause some damage to my gang, but at the same time not have to worry about receiving fire from incoming fire. As you can see, she moves Judge Benoit into the middle of that courtyard of that chemical tower. She also moves up, I believe that's Judge Mason, who's the guy with the bolt gun there on the left-hand side. She moves up to that chemical tower as well. She also takes Kundalini and kind of positions him in such a way that he can still have cover behind that cargo skiff and still be able to shoot. And she also moves Trixie 2 inches away, so that way she doesn't worry about getting charged at, or at least try to get out of the charge range. And that makes up her move for this one. During the shooting phase, Judge Benoit opens up with his combat shotgun, and Mad Teddy does manage to wound him. When I rolled up on the injury, though, he got another flesh wound. But unfortunately for Mad Teddy, because he's a juve, he is only weapon skill 2 and ballistic skill 2. So because of that, he automatically goes out of action because the guy basically can't fight at that point. So there's another member of my jury gone out of action. He's going to have to roll up on the serious injury table to see exactly what happens to him. Kundalini, meanwhile, takes aim with his last rifle with power pack and tries to open up the shot. He rolled a 6, but he managed to fail to wound. So because he has to take an ammo roll, and because he's using a hot shot power pack, Sister Serial failed his ammo roll, so now that guy won't be able to shoot for the rest of the game, which is kind of sad as well. So yeah, things are not looking up for Precinct 13. During the recovery phase, she rolls another 5 for Trixie, so because of that, she's still on the ground just bleeding out. Which takes us to turn 4 for the jury. This photo is taken after the movement phase. As you can see, I start committing the rest of my assault forces, moving them in such a way to open up on that cargo skiff. I'm realizing that this fight's a much more difficult fight than I had planned, so my goal now is just to open up with everything I have on that cargo skiff, hopefully cause it to explode. If I do cause it to explode, the Precinct 13 guys automatically lose the scenario, and I can win it. I don't have to worry about driving them off any further. At the same time, I also charge a Reptile, having charged directly into the down body of Trixie to gauge her in close combat, and she will automatically go out of action during the combat phase. So that part's kind of nice. During the shooting phase, one of my gang members managed to hit Judge Mason. Not only did they manage to hit him, but he also fails his initiative test and he falls off the bridge as well, causing another wound. When he rolled up for the injury on that one, Sister Cyril, she rolled up a 6 on that part, so because of that, Judge Mason will need to take a roll on the serious injury table after the scenario is completed. Afterwards, during the shooting phase, my entire gang opens up onto the cargo skiff, including my ganger sorter, that my heavy sorter, that guy's on the last cannon. Managed to finally put the final wound onto that cargo skiff. It blows up, and as you can see from the 46 that we rolled, basically 20 cargo crates end up flying off of this thing. So, and because I blew up the cargo skiff, the Precinct 13 guys automatically lose, and those are 20 loot crates that I can now use for my troops and hopefully enrich myself from the riches of this ill-gotten gains. And as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of the game. The jury won this one, managed to drive off the members of Precinct 13 after we blew up with the cargo skiff. They take off. However, even though I won this one, I did have a lot of my gang members go down and have action in this scenario, so I'm to roll up on a lot of these guys from the serious injury table and see exactly what happens to my gang. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're heading directly to the post game because this battle report is now officially over. Alright, so now it's time to the post game, talk about exactly what happened to the members of these gangs. First of all, we're going to start off with Precinct 13 with their Killjoys as well as Iron Sight's allies. First of all, for injuries, Judge Benoit suffered a hand injury, so now he has -1 to his weapon skill. Judge Vasquez got the shell shock injury, so now he has -1 to his leadership. Judge Mason made a full recovery, and Judge Herschel got the horrible scars injury, so because of that he now causes fear, and that's actually kind of good for that guy as well. Raven, she managed to survive against the odds. She earned herself 9 experience points, as well as Mimi the Punk. She also made a full recovery as well. I apologize. I was calling Mimi the Punk Trixie on this one from this battle report, so I apologize for that part to Lady Dawn on that part. So Mimi the Punk does make a full recovery. Red Cap Killer, on the other hand, ends up being dead, so now the Killjoys are out of their really good scummer that they actually had. And Kundalini of the Iron Sights, because he got caught in the blast of that explosion, he also suffered an injury. He got a -1 to his weapon skill because he suffered a hand injury on that part. For advancements, because of the difference in gang ratings, members of the gang of Precinct 13 leveled up quite a bit. Judge Vasquez got +2 to his wounds, so now he's carrying 2 extra wounds. Judge Mason got +1 to his weapon skill. Judge Darko got +2 to his ballistic skill, and Judge Herschel got +1 to his initiative as well as his weapon skill. Raven, she earned +1 for her weapon skill, and Mimi the Punk got +1 to her wound as well as +1 ballistic skill. The new records for Precinct 13 is at 4 wins as well as 3 losses, and the new gang rating for Precinct 13 Bravo team is at 1,543 points. The overall Precinct 13 House gang rating is at 3,392 points. With the additions of the new experience they gained, the Killjoys are now at 2,374 points, and the Iron Sights now are at 2,986 points as well. Alright, for the juries, let's talk about injuries real fast. Darkside received an arm wound, so now he's at -1 strength. VR made a full recovery, so that part was kind of nice. Jockey got blinded 1 eye, so now he has -1 to his ballistic skill. And as for Reese, Tango, and Mad Teddy, my little squad of Jews, those 3 guys rolled up dead, so I lost 3 of my Jews, which is kind of sad. As well as Red Harvest, that Ratskin scout who's been with me since the beginning pretty much, he is now dead too, so I was kind of sad about that part as well. However, even though those guys died, I did get advancements. Stubber, he got +1 to his weapon skill. Sorter learned the fast shot skill, the medic skill, and got +1 to his attacks because that guy was a beast with all the wounds he was causing. Lemonhead got the crack shot skill. Darkside got +1 to his wounds as well as +1 to his weapon skill. Tetsuo got +1 to his attacks. Scorpion learned the Berserk Rage skill, so that guy is now deadly in close combat as well. Weapon Reptile got +1 to his weapon skill, and VR got +1 to his ballistic skill. For the territories, ended up netting 50 creds from the Mineworks. Also managed to skip up 40 creds for the Outlander rules as well, and I also snagged 20 crates of loot. In the end, it ended up being 230 credits from the loot crates. I found maps to 5 territories, which I could then loot because I was an outlaw at the time, and I also found an isotropic fuel rod as one for 1 rare item. I ended up having a total score of 320 creds on this whole heist thing that I pulled off. For the merchant, I spent 322 creds to pay off my outlaw status, so now I'm back to being a respectable gang again. I then looted all 5 territories that I found. My 5 territories that I found were 2 slag pits, 2 settlements, as well as an old ruin, netting myself 100 creds in return for doing that. With the money that I left over, I bought 4 sets of frag grenades from Mondo, DJ, Jockey, and Johnny. I then also took my 10 remaining credits and put it inside of my stash. I then used my isotropic fuel rod to establish a settlement as well, which I won't be able to use for this one to collect credits, so I have to wait to my next scenario to work that territory. Now in all, I have 7 territories in all. I have my mine workings that gives me a +2 on my D6 rolls because I have 2 slaves working it. I have a settlement, a holstead, a workshop, tunnels, vents, as well as a spore cave. My gang's new record now is at 9 wins as well as 1 loss, and my new gang rating now is at 3,960 points. That's going to do it for this one, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, we alternate every Thursday between our battle reports of Necromunda, which is Tales from the Underhive, with our Warhammer 8th Edition battle reports, Warhammer the Golden Age. We also have shows popping up on Sundays with the 9th Saga, which is our 9th Age battle reports, as well as Age of the Realms, which is our Warhammer Age of Sigmar battle reports. As always, you guys, feel free to check us out on Facebook, Google+, as well as Instagram. We have the links on our description, as well as top of the banner for our page to keep up to date all the latest and greatest on our hobby. As always, you guys, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Your guys' input is invaluable as always. We'll see you guys on the flip side. You guys stay classy. Peace out.